Good evening. Today is the 13th day of October 2014, and it gives me great joy to have Dr. Alok Pandey with us again.
Namaste, it's a joy.
And we're going to do a series of interviews, talks with Alok Bhai. Tonight, I wanted to ask you about some of the things that these young people I meet are speaking to me about. The first is they've not seen Mother, and they feel a lack, and they say, we're missing something because we've never seen her in the physical body. And then they ask, why doesn't she appear to us? So I wanted those two things perhaps you could cover. And then the third one is, since they are no longer in their bodies, what is the status of the integral yoga right now and the supramental?
I think it's a very contemporary question, and as I travel across the world, this is one of the questions which both young and old alike do ask me. There is a very short answer to this, and the short answer is that we may not be able to see her, but she is able to see us. And yoga depends primarily on the divine rather than the human end. I am reminded of a little story of Swami Sharananand, who was blind in both eyes, and he came here to have a darshan of Aurobindo and the Mother. This is a paradox. He is blind and Aurobindo and the Mother won't speak. So what kind of a communion is this? So someone asked him this question, that you are blind and they won't speak. So what have you come here for? And he was a mystic. He had his own following, and obviously as a mystic he understood very well. And he replied, I'm not going there so that I can see them, because even with these eyes we can hardly see. I'm going there so that they can put their gaze upon me, even materially. So I suppose this is an eternal truth of to start with of yoga, that it starts from the divine end, and once the divine sanctions the yoga, then the human beings feels the aspiration. That's why Aurobindo says in the synthesis, he who has chosen the infinite has been chosen by the infinite. And once the aspiration is born, that means the results of the yoga are eventually contained in it. How, which way, what course it will take, divine's physical presence, physical absence, everything becomes a feeder to the yoga. Ravindraji used to say this. I've heard, I have not asked this question to him, Ravindraji, that some of the youngsters, he used to say, you people are rather lucky. And they would wonder why. So he would say, we saw them physically, and we were so much taken up by the physical that we never made an effort to find them inside. It was a very frank admission.
Yes.
And I must say, very, very honest one. So life revolved around Mother. For everything they would write to Mother and Aurobindo, even the little things, the petty quarrels, the small issues. And very patiently they would reply. Chhot Narayanji once told me, he said, sometimes I feel that because they were physically present, we really lost a great opportunity, because we were, for every small thing, every small issues, we would go to them. And the one thing needful, that is to find her within, we hardly made an effort. So when the divine is physically present, this is actually the saga of every time the divine embodiment has been there. Again, I go back to the Indian myth of Krishna. It is said that only 5 people recognize some kind of a divinity in him. And subsequently, leave aside the gopis and Radha, but subsequently now you see, there's so many movements that have come up, so many experiences. Who would say that Meera found Krishna less than Radha? So mystic communion is always an inner event. And yes, no doubt about it that if there is an external touch, it is something very powerful. Aurobindo says that. But it can work in another way also. Just a couple of days back, I was reading from the agenda, and Mother reminds, Satprem that, Aurobindo said this so clearly when people asked him, how nice to live near the Mother. And he cautioned them, it is very, very difficult. And then she says that people have this feeling that being physically near her, well, no doubt about it, it's a great glory. But how many of us are really ready to receive and contain that glory in the right way?
He also says someplace, you'll know it, where someone is complaining that one of the disciples sees Mother all the time. And he says, some people only see Mother on their birthdays.
Yes.
Remember that?
Yes, also on Darshan Day,
Yes.
she said.
Yes.
And Aurobindo made it very clear, and the Mother also, that it's not so important being physically near, seeing them physically. It is a different arrangement. And he made it very clear, it does not depend upon the degree of yoga that one is pursuing, the kind of yoga, which is always dependent of anything external and largely dependent on the inner processes. That means aspiration, rejection, surrender. Interestingly, in the entire synthesis, in the entire, that wonderful book, The Mother, the whole process of yoga, nowhere he says you have to actually physically see and interact. I mean, physical embodiment has its own great purpose. Nobody can deny it. But the purpose of physical embodiment, as I have understood from their writings, is basically to transform matter. And every time the divine takes a physical body, it is basically to work upon matter. Now, in that process of working upon matter, a lot of human beings who represent different kinds of possibilities and difficulties, they come near. But the yoga part, which means essentially the union and communion with the divine, and the change and the conversion that takes place as a result of the process, is not dependent on the physical nearness. Nothing should be taken as an axiomatic truth in the sense that, then it's better to be far. No, it's not, doesn't work like that. The point is that if we are having the right attitude, nearness can help, but if you have the wrong attitude, nearness can be a big hindrance. If we have the right attitude, being far away, the aspiration will grow because we'll feel the physical absence. It will serve to feed the flame. But if you have the wrong attitude, or rather to put it this way, that the aspiration is not yet really strong enough, then of course a human being feels that, well, they are so far, I am so far. And you may remember the Mother also spoke about, I am near you.
Yes.
That whole thing, where she says, it does not matter whether you are here in Pondicherry, she makes it very clear, or you are at the other end of the world, or in France or anywhere else. Those who have faith, and in those whom she has said yes, which of course is an inner process, there is a bond which is more than just a bond which is inner. She actually puts in something of her being in these, which warns and cautions immediately, and she responds just as she responded before. And I have in my own life, and several other people whom I have met who have not had this rare grace of having the physical darshan of Mother and Aurobindo, who have experienced this n number of times. I mean, I have seen it with my own life any number of times. Just a little call and the response is immediate. In fact, she says this is one of the signs that you are ready for the spiritual life, that if you call, the response will come. And it's totally independent of everything else. Countless examples. I mean, some of them I said previously, from the most material thing to the most inner. 25 years back, I took this kind of a strange, I'm saying this example because I didn't have that rare grace of seeing them physically.
Yes.
And I just took it that, well, whatever I need, the mother will give it to me. We have a prosperity here, but I wanted to live in the spirit of prosperity. That it's not just that, every first of the month you go there and receive something, but divine will take care of everything you need, and divine knows better your needs. So 25 years ago, I took this inner vow that I'm not going to buy anything for myself. And whatever I need, mother will give me. So first my wife, of course, said that, no, you are stretching it a bit too far. Surrender doesn't mean this, all this. I said, okay, let's try. So, we were going on a holiday. She made a list of about 25 things. And she said, you need all this. I said, I'm not sure. No, you need it. So I said, okay, we'll not buy and we'll see. Everything from the list, from a combination to 3 pant pieces to a shoe, things which nobody gives, they all came my way. And since then I have seen, and everything, the dress I wear, the chappals, it's 25 years. When I need it, it comes. So, and it's not about me. I have seen so many persons, when they need something, it comes to them. And it's very beautiful. So when I came here and, I was asked before becoming an ashram inmate, you want to be a non-prosperity or prosperity member. I didn't have all those frames within me. All that I knew was that before becoming an ashram inmate, 2 years before that, I saw once, I'm in the queue for the food in the dining room, and mother is there with soup, the soup kept in a big pot, and she is standing there and she instructs someone, from today he will have his food here, and she gives the soup to me. Now this is getting into material contact with her. She takes the responsibility of my material well-being. So I said, look, as far as I am concerned, she has already accepted me as part of the ashram. Now prosperity and non-prosperity is simply a external manifestation of something which is already an inner truth.
But you had seen her.
I saw
in the dining
her.
room with the ladle
yes.
and the big cauldron.
Yes, with the big cauldron and instructing. So I said, look, as far as I am concerned, I am an ashram inmate 2 years back. I didn't, of course, speak about this vision. I said, so if it has to manifest outwardly, it should be prosperity simply for the sake of manifesting an inner truth. Whether I take anything or not is not an important issue, because all these years I have lived with this attitude that mother will provide whatever I need. And this continues till date. I had taken premature retirement, and again lot of issues that how will you survive, sustain. Our son Yuyutsu was still studying. He wanted to study abroad, and honestly, just my pension, whatever little money was there, the house was made. So I told him that, look, child, you will have to work out a scholarship. And he's the one boy who stood with me in my decision to take a release. He said, you are following your calling, you must do it. You don't worry. And just when his going to UK was round the corner, a windfall of money came. Unexpectedly, literally thrust upon me. It's a long story, and the amount was just enough to cover his entire education. So, there are so many such touches of the mother's love, her grace, and I think we have to make a leap of faith. There was a nice movie, Indiana Jones series, Steven Spielberg, and in one of them there were 7 challenges one had to meet before, getting the cup of Christ, which is a relic, which means the touch of Christ basically. And the last is a leap of faith. So I think now we have to make the leap of faith, and it adds to the delight when we have made that leap of faith. Physically we don't see her, and yet we see her coming from every side, in every which way. And one thing is for sure, those who have the aspiration, who are marked for the yoga, will always receive the help. Third thing is that the mother and Aurobindo themselves, they foresaw this. that a day will come when there will be more and more aspirant, but physically she may or may not be there. She spoke about this to Huta, that in times to come, those who are going to come will love me even much more. So what did they do? They made a very interesting arrangement. First I saw Sri Aurobindo step back. We see that Sri Aurobindo step back and he put mother in the front. Then we see that around the time that mother stepped back, 62, she more and more prepared people that, look, if I am not there physically in front of you, I am still there, as available and as accessible. You may be knowing that story about someone telling Bulada to convey a message to mother, and it was night and Bulada had access to mother at any point of time. And he thought, why should at night I go and disturb the mother? So he spoke something at the Samadhi and slept off. And in the morning when this person met Bulada, have you told the mother? Well, I said this at the Samadhi. So the person was very unhappy, bit furious, that look, you couldn't convey this. When he goes to meet the mother, she says, yes, Bula told me at night. So she gave so many experiences to everybody that, look, I'm there, whether you see me or you don't see me. I mean, after 62, except for the darshan days, she was no more available to everybody. Some people, yes, who were connected with the work. Then a third thing which I find very interesting, and I'm sure you must have also noted it. You know, Sri Aurobindo established the mother in 3 ways at 3 different crucial points. One, of course, the role that India had to play, and he established through Bande Matram and his wonderful Bhavani Bharati. He installed the mother in the heart or as a seed in the Indian soil, because India had to play a role, nothing else. Then he installed the mother in the midst of ignorant humanity as what we know in a limited way as the mother of Sri Aurobindo Ashram, but you know as much as we all that she was never limited. She says that I am so vast and it's so small, the ashram, she even draws a diagram. And the third thing, because he knew that not everybody will be so fortunate and privileged to receive the mother's consciousness directly turning to her with devotion and faith, so he manifested Savitri. So you see, and mother herself put her seal when she said that Savitri alone can take you to the highest stages of transformational yoga without the help of a living guru. So, for different kinds of humanity. And above all, the greatest truth. See, even an ordinary master is not limited to his physical body. Sri Ramakrishna mentioned, for instance, that even after I go for 300 years, I am continuing to guide. I'll continue to guide. Their influence spreads across vast areas of time. The master assumes a body and withdraws from the body for a certain play, not because he is bound by the body, or if he goes away he cannot do anything. When mother was asked about Sri Aurobindo's action, this is 72, that how is his action going on after he left the body, and the mother says it's there in her collected works, in agenda at great length, but also in notes on the way. She says it has become much more powerful because it's no more limited by the material physical envelope. So we can say even more so for the mother, who I do believe that she completed the yoga of transformation despite whatever I have my own reasons, my own experiences, that she completed the yoga of transformation, and the mother and Sri Aurobindo are very much there in their very, very supramentalized physical body. And then that takes us to the question, why don't we see them? I think the mother made it very clear. It's there in one of Amaldas' statements also. Interestingly, before I just touch, just as an aside, there is this book of Amalda, The Mother, Past, Present, Future. And there he speaks about an experience which Shehra had in 74, 17th November. Interestingly, in 74, we also have Nolnida recounting a vision where he saw the mother come. Though he replied in the Canadian question that the work may be postponed, but he had a vision where mother comes and she said, just look at me. I'm just the same. I'm available to you in just the same way. You can approach to me as human and you can approach to me as divine. This was an assurance given through him to the whole of humanity, because he was the one who carried that consciousness.
Yes.
And so she came to him to let this vision go out into the world that look, I am there. And Sarah hears that voice, same 74, while she is going to the mother's room. I am no more confined only to my room, I am everywhere. So I would rather say that the mother and Aurobindo's action, their presence, their force has become even more powerful and stronger. And the yoga has become even more easier, paradoxically. But coming to this fact about seeing them. So what I not just feel, but this my intuition, and maybe I can share it. When I came in the beginning, a lot of people, now beginning means I'm talking of 2003. So, there are all kinds of people who say all kinds of things. So one of them was, mother and Aurobindo are not there, it's all right, you can be outside here. I said, yes, I understand that they are everywhere, not on the premise that they are not there. That will be a wrong premise. But, I have the calling now to be here, and so I am here. It's not that this only yoga can be done here. Even in Aurobindo's time, Aurobindo speaks about disciples who are in Pondicherry and disciples who are away. Yes, right?
Yes.
Right then, their letters. But then for a few months, so often I would see mother and Aurobindo in their golden bodies. It is a grace. I can't do it now. I mean, I have tried several times that if what happened to me, but it was a grace. But a grace which was like a strong assurance. Incidentally, I saw them only within the ashram premises. But it was like a special grace that we are very much there, but you are blind. But how I understand it's that supramentalized matter still cannot be readily seen by the physical eyes, which are still so much constituted by the inconscient. And I believe that as we go through the process of yoga, maybe 100 years, 200 years, 300 years, as the mother said, their supramentalized physical will become more and more concretized, being in contact with the earth. And on the other hand, human beings who are into the yoga, their vision will become more and more subtle. So there will be a meeting point when the contact will take place. And a layer of humanity will be able to see, literally see, as the Vedic seer said, not just feel, perceive, think, conceive, live, but actually see the supramental world precipitated into the physical, and this will form the first layer of a supramentalized race. So there are more and more in the subtle physical which is being packed with the supramental contents. The mother spoke about it in the agenda. And the supramental creation which has been brought down up to there. There is a push for this supramental creation now to precipitate in the physical, which includes their supramental bodies. But human beings are being also taken up. What she spoke about in one of her talks, that they'll be taken up and integrated with the new creation. So taken up includes our senses, vision, hearing, which will be taken up to a point where not just subtly but physically we'll be able to see them as, we see each other. How long this process will take place, we don't know. But till then, we have to make a leap of faith. Now here when I say this, I am excluding the inner visions, which is a different matter altogether. We all have inner visions, inner contact, and I am not speaking of that kind of seeing which was always available to the mystics. So that way we can always see them by their grace, by aspiration, by purification, by refinement. It's always possible to, see them with the subtle vision. But I'm not speaking of that at all. but the gross vision getting transformed to a point, and their supramentalized bodies becoming concretized to a point where the two meet. And that will be a moment, a very wonderful moment. And Amal Kiran has written something very similar. I had this insight after I had my own experience and given Nalini Das statement and many such Champaglas visions of the Mother and Sri Aurobindo, such wonderful supramental bodies. I have no doubt that they are very much there in their supramental bodies, and a day will come when it will be more and more easy for the aspirants, sadhaks, children, or whatever we call them, to be able to even see them as we have seen them in physical bodies when they were also in the gross, this physical matter. But there will be a change. I mean, it cannot be just like that, because obviously supramentalized physical is going to be a very different physical matter than this gross physical. So eyes have to be tuned in.
Your mother speaks also about the cells that she had transformed.
Yes.
And how they would, by a unique, I forget the word now, that they would transfer to others.
Yes. Particularly when Satprem asked her, it's a very difficult process. How are we going to do it? And then she says, but who is asking you to do it? I am doing it for you, and you have to open. And she speaks about the contagion. She speaks about
contagion.
Yes, she speaks about contagion. She speaks about even before her yoga, with regard to Sri Aurobindo's yoga, when the press note was, I forget now who had prepared the press note, that the mortal remains of Sri Aurobindo shall be entered into the Samadhi at so and so time on 9th December. And when this was shown to the mother, she struck it off, the word mortal remains. And then she wrote, there was nothing mortal about Sri Aurobindo. Each cell of his body was ablaze with the immortal fire. So, of course, a day will come when we will see it. But till then, in any case, yoga starts with faith, and a large amount of ground is covered with faith. It's not like, from day one I should be able to see her. But faith gets justified with a growing experience. That's what yoga has always been. In fact, if this faith is missing, then how people even came there. They were physically present, and what happened? Because faith was missing, some of them went away. And among them, great men. Motilal Roy, who had such a privilege of being in close contact with Sri Aurobindo in such a way. And he went away, and of course Barin, Dilip, so many instances.
Yes, Harindranath.
Yes, Harindranath, and quite a few instances where even somebody like Anil Baran, who also had faith, but he was of course seized with this great sentiment of trying to unite, India and Pakistan. But nevertheless, what is most important in yoga, as I understand, is faith. And faith is justified by experience as we grow into it by their grace through a process of increasing purification, growing aspiration and surrender. So the same law holds now. Even when they were in the physical bodies, they emphasized on faith, because if faith was not there, even in their physical presence, people had doubts. They looked at their bodies and thought they are mere humans. See how it works. Absence of faith. We have so many interesting stories which come to my mind.
Sri Aurobindo defines the word, doesn't he, one time? Faith is a knowledge of the soul.
Yes, faith is a knowledge of the soul. It's a light of the soul. Yes. And the soul already knows something which the mind does not yet know.
Yes.
And so it has to manifest itself with process of evolving time. Thank you so much.